dominating the headlines right now. We are told that the big scandal that you need to take a side on is the glorious scandal of Aunt Jemima's corn syrup. This is the level of discourse that's propped up by what we call political correctness. Aunt Jemima's pancake syrup. That is the level of discourse that we have in this country right now. We have to get rid of Aunt Jemima's syrup. Not the syrup, by the way. The name. And that's the deep rigor of leftism and political correctness, or what I would call it, victimism. Using the concern for victims as a cheap power play to gain power over others. Because while the media rails against Aunt Jemima's name, which they want us to take aside, I don't care one iota about Aunt Jemima, Quaker Oats, and Pepsi Company. I don't care what their brands are about. That's the least of my concerns. I'm concerned about my friends like Craig Cecil, who was given a life sentence for doing body work on trucks moving marijuana. And he served 18 years in federal prison in a dungeon where there's violence and terrorists come and go, murderers and rapists come and go, but a man who fixes trucks that were moving marijuana gets a life sentence, while social justice presidents presided and come and go, lauded by the media, lauded by the people who are very excited that they got Aunt Jemima's name to be taken off. Because they, in their self-righteous fervor, are the standard of justice in their minds. But they push presidents like President Barack Obama, who was the emblem and symbol of social justice victimism, where you have symbol matters more than reality. This is a man who bailed out the banks, who launched multiple wars on people of color around the world, opened up slavery in Libya. Not a peep, not a word from the media. They cheerled the war in Libya. But boy, do they have a real victory on their hands when they can get Aunt Jemima to change the brand name. Now, they're not going to stop telling you that you should eat lots and lots of corn like Aunt Jemima is. That's corn syrup. So that's the real justice. Real justice would be to actually have a real media with intelligent adults that would tell you, don't eat the corn syrup in Aunt Jemima's pancake mix or flour, because that's what's going to make you sick for coronavirus or other illnesses like cancer and disease. But they won't tell you that because that's real justice, not stupid symbolic justice. They're more excited to know that Barack Obama was president than to actually say, hey, don't kill people in Libya. What did they do to you? Stop murdering innocent people. Nobody cares. They get a Netflix special for it after they leave the presidency. They still got Netflix movies coming out every year, like they're Gandhi, as they murdered millions of people of color in Libya, in Syria, and Iraq, and Afghanistan, and Yemen. And we're supposed to be lectured by this stupid, idiotic, dogmatic, religious stupidity called victimism, called political correctness. They are the worst idea of justice that I've ever seen. They do nothing but rail against pancake names while getting people to eat pancake syrup and get sick and lying to people about what food is. They do all they can to tell you about what Oscars, who they should nominate for awards, while they do everything they can to cheerlead the bombing of people of color in Libya and Yemen and Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria and then attack President Trump when he says we shouldn't be in Iraq, we shouldn't be in Libya, we shouldn't have been in Syria. That same group of people who think they are the arbiters of justice because they don't like the Aunt Jemima brand will cheerlead for murder of human beings in overseas wars. And that's what it is, murder. And I've had enough of these fools telling us about what we should be concerned with, about justice. These are clowns. I've heard that they're going after Rice Krispie treats because there's too many white elves. But they'll make sure that people of color, or whatever the word they'll come up with next, because they're a self-righteous and haughty little religion, they've always got to come up with a new word. They can't ever be happy with their words. They always have to come up with a more purified word every 5 years. To virtue signal, to signal their self-righteous superiority over others. But this political correctness garbage wants to rail against Rice Krispie treats elves for being too white, while they cheerlead bombing Syria. How in the hell are we taking these people seriously? I mean, at what point are we going to stick these programs into the trash can where they belong? I'm not going to continue to even engage this if this is the level of discourse that we're going to have, where they cheerlead for war, but they think that they want to let you know that they're concerned about victims because they want Rice Krispie treats to have a different brand, different logo. Next, they'll go after Quaker Oats because it's stereotyping to depict a Quaker that way, right? Well, there's no money there because that's not something they can use to tear apart the country and distract people while they go to war. They're always in the service of war. That's what victimism is all about. Political correctness is pretty speech codes while you bomb the ever-loving daylights out of innocent human beings around the world. Well, it's not going to happen if you and I stand up and say no to the garbage. But it's going to take courage. Do we have that? 727-587-1040.